Will these cards be the next EZA in the Transcendent Dokkan Campaign? How's it, everybody? Celtic Link here. We're back for another Dokkan Battle video. In today's video, looks like things are slowing down in the Feeling the Heat Transcendent Dokkan Campaign. But don't worry, it looks like a major EZA is on its way. So in this video, we're going to kind of break down why we know this is happening and who it is likely to be. So first off, let's go ahead, let's jump in and let's take a look at what it is that is giving us this indicator. So first and foremost, right, when we look at the in-game news, we can see that there are the campaign is just about right, except there's still a week left, and all of the content that is supposedly coming is here, except the final stages of the new red zone. Otherwise, we have everything for the campaign. So begs the question is, what are they going to do for the final stage? Well, the obvious answer is in the final week we will get a major EZA to fill out the last bit of the celebration, and in the in-game news it would seem that that might belong to the Resurrection of F Blue duo, who seem to have a burst mode related to them suddenly out of the blue. We've seen this happen before in cases like Int Yamcha, where a burst mode is added in the middle of a campaign, and he would later EZA during that campaign. So it's very possible that this could be what it is. There's not a whole lot else to suggest this other than this event, and there's no reopenings of events connected to them or anything else. So the question is, what could they do? Well, thanks to the latest data download and of course our good friend Proton 10MG, we know that there are some gaps in the updated IDs, specifically in this area here, which would suggest that there is something new coming. All right, now the gap in the IDs could suggest a couple of things. Now I know it does say UR, right, representing a TUR here, but right, that's because the gap is empty. It could represent something else. So if we look here, right, this could be basically the way Proton breaks it down is this can mean two things. Because the number of steps that are missing, right, this would either be 3 new TURs, or 1 LR EZA, or 2 LR EZA, or something that uses the remaining 6 IDs, right? And basically the way you can understand this is that when we look at the way IDs are situated, right, it's based on their awakening, right? If we're talking EZAs, it's based on their awakenings. Well, true for their Dokkan awakenings too, right? So if you see here like a TUR EZA such as like the STR Broly, who we received, has 7 steps in his TUR, in his IDs, you know, relevant to the 7 awakening steps of a TUR EZA. Golden Frieza, right, and LR EZA represents 3 steps in an LR EZA, right? Non-LRs or non-EZA characters, right, only have 1 awakening step for TURs, right? So like the Vegeta, for example, this guy has a couple of more because he awakened from an SR to an SSR to a UR, right? And then the Golden Frieza and Broly have 2, right, from the SSR to TUR, and then the TUR, the LR to from TUR. So that basically tells us that it's probably going to be one of these. Now, I think it's very, very likely that the IDs are not representative of 3 new TURs, just because it is a little early for those to be in the it's a little early for those gaps to be in there. It's not to say that they couldn't. We have had them early, but What that does tell us on the basis of these IDs is that something like the resurrection of F Duo, unfortunately, are not likely for an EZA unless they add more when it's time for their data download, which is entirely possible, right? Because they have 7 steps. If they were to EZA, right, as you can see here, right, 7 steps, they would fill this whole gap right here. But then that would leave another set out, right? So they could happen, but like Proton mentions, the very likely scenario is assuming the remaining 3 gaps are filled. That could mean 2 LR EZAs. And the big ones on everybody's mind, and people have been saying this for months, is actually the Cooler movie duo, right? Specifically LR STR Cooler and the Tech Birdcoo, right? These guys seem very likely they would be a fit for this celebration, being that the celebration is, you know, with the Tech Gogeta and the Tech Broly movie bosses and movie heroes, right? When we look at the actual categories themselves, there aren't too many other options for major LR EZAs. Like, that's it. Right? Unless one of those IDs is filled, of course, by like a free-to-play LR EZA, which on the super side doesn't really exist. But on the extreme side, really, I mean, the only option would be like Wheelo, which I guess is an option, but then that still leaves the other LR EZA. That leaves one more LR EZA option unavailable, right? So I doubt it, but I also doubt that it's the Cooler movie duo, right? And I know people think that's a little weird, right? I don't think any one of these is going to EZA, because these are the first, number one, right? These are the first the introduction, right? This whole celebration was the introduction to the first Carnival LRs, and I think they're probably going to make a bigger to-do about the first Carnival EZAs than just tacking them on at the end of what is now the equivalent of Tanabata. And in fact, if I'm being honest, a little bit smaller than Tanabata usually is. So I do think that they are an unlikely scenario, especially when you also consider that these guys, we already had a worldwide LR EZA during this year, and that was during the anniversary with the EZAs for the Full Power Frieza and the Namek Goku. Now, typically with our worldwide celebrations, for the main headliners, when they EZA, it's typically 1 per year. It's very rare that we get multiple in a year. So that does, for me, pretty much rule them out. But there's one more LR EZA duo from the 2022 year that would actually not only fit the the movie heroes and movie bosses theme, but also fit the superhero theme, which, remember, both Broly and Gogeta are from Dragon Ball Super, and that is, of course, the LR Orange Piccolo and the Fizz Ultimate Gohan, Beastless Gohan, as we like to call him. These guys could very much get an EZA during this celebration. Now, it would probably be the best time to do them because they're the New Year's TURs. Well, the equivalent of the New Year's TURs. There's not really another place to do them, right? Because New Year's TURs typically can EZA just about anywhere, right? We've seen them EZA during Golden Week. We've seen them EZA in random monthly celebrations such as PyCon and Janemba. We've seen them EZA during anniversaries. So there's not an official place to do them. In fact, this year alone, we've seen 3 New Year's TUR EZAs. So what's a 4th? But I do think that they're pretty much the only other options looking at the categories, right? like I said, at the IDs, there's no room for TUR EZAs who would require 7 steps. The reason LR EZAs work is because they only require 3 steps, which is the exact amount of IDs that are missing, 6 IDs. So it's a long shot, but I do think that they are the most likely scenario. Now, like I said, it could be something crazy, like it could be Dr. Wheelo, right, for an LR EZA, free-to-play LR EZA, and then on the super side, it could be something like Tapion and Minosha. That's a little out there, in my opinion, and I think it's very unlikely, but it can happen. It could very well be them. Right, or like in Goku, Piccolo, who have had their assets, their battle assets, updated for quite some time, actually. So it could be something like that. But I do think that there is, I think that the Orange Piccolo and Ultimate Gohan are probably the very most likely scenario. Again, I'm hesitant to say that LR Cooler and Birdku are EZAing just because we have already gotten our worldwide EZAs for the year, and they tend to be a little more sparing with these major celebrations. Plus, it being the first Carnival LR, I feel like there's going to be a bigger to-do about it, such as during the anniversary is when I think we would likely to see them EZA. They could, and again, nothing's ever set in stone with Dokkan. They could very well update the IDs with another data download, and the missing IDs could be added, and then they could very well drop something like a Destined Rivals and do this blue Goku and the Int and the Int, no, he's not Int, he's Tech, isn't he? Yeah, the Tech Vegeta. So they could very well do something like that, because there is enough for one, but there's a major gap that would not lead, like if one EZAs, there's a gap in the IDs that would not fill an LR EZA, a TUR, or anything like that. So I do think that it's very likely that it's not a TUR, but just saying, they could always just add it back into the data later. That's not above something they could do. So again, 3 new TURs, 1 LR EZA, 2 LR EZAs, or something else entirely. Now, I want to throw out that I could be completely off. I always want to say this. I could be completely off, and it is 3 new TURs. Remember, there is a upcoming... we are approaching the end of the celebration, so these could be the IDs for the banner unit and the new Dokkan Fest for the next celebration, and then whatever the crossover campaign celebration TUR is going to be in the part 2 of that, which would replace Dragon Ball Heroes for the year. So just throwing out, it could very well be that, and I could be completely wrong here. So I just want to end with that. So guys, if you guys liked the video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And in the comments down below, let us know, who do you think the LR EZA are going to be? Assuming that is what these IDs represent. My bet is on the superhero EZAs. There's not really going to be another place to do them. They do them now. At least they still have a relevant team to be run on. I doubt they're going to hold them until LR, STR, Beast Gohan, EZAs. They could. They very well could. But again, that's 2 years from now. So I doubt they're going to hold them for that long. So now, when Movie Heroes and Movie Bosses is in a really good position, is probably the best time to do them. But let us know what you think in the comments down below. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and aloha.